What's up? What's up? What's up, man? Polo Sports Talking ENT here again with another one. Uh, it don't stop around here, man. LDBC all day. I want to give a shout out to all of my subs, uh, all my brothers amongst the lines den, and just everybody that comes in, shows love and supports the channel. Make sure you hit the sub, hit the like, hit all of the notifications so that you're able to get each and every one of my videos. You know the deal, you know the drill. Now, Dennis Rodman, I know that this has been a trending topic, and Dennis Rodman was on a podcast just recently. Um, it was called the Full Send podcast, and during the interview, he had explained why he doesn't watch today's NBA players. Quote, players coming down shooting 50 footers. And he referenced players like Steph Curry and Damian Lillard. And he said, quote, I don't know, it's just very hard to watch because once you played the game the way we played it intensity, just competitiveness, quote. But now it's more like, you know, I don't want to watch players coming down shooting 50 footers. That's not basketball, end quote. Look, let me be clear about something, okay? For those of y'all that have watched my channel, and for those of y'all that really understand a true passion that I have for the game of basketball, okay? In no way is this video intended to offend anybody, okay? Uh, I know a lot of people from various generations actually watch this channel. Whether you come from the pre 80s era, you name it, 50, 60. I don't know too many of those guys. Whether you with the 90s eras, whether you with the early 2000s, the 2010s, and up to now, I have a profound respect for each and every generation and every player that comes along. I appreciate a guy like Steph Curry for what he brings to the table. I feel that Steph Curry is a remarkable talent, a remarkable shooter, one of the greatest shooters that we've ever seen in this lifetime. And Dame Lillard, a wonderful offensive talent. He's an offensive juggernaut. While I don't necessarily agree with his his knack for wanting to play hero ball all the time, that's one aspect of his game that I feel like, if he got his team involved a little bit more, it would work out better for him. But that's neither here nor there. He's in the league for a reason. But what people got to understand is that when Dennis Rodman played the game, everybody had when he was playing, everybody had their specific roles, right? Dennis Rodman actually could have. A lot of people don't understand this, that Dennis Rodman was a scorer coming out of coming out of Southern Oklahoma. He in college he pretty much broke records. He was a scoring machine. He was a rebounding machine too. At the same token, everything that you've seen in the NBA, he had did while he was in college. And not only did he do it, he did it, you know, scoring a little bit more. But his intent to come in the NBA wasn't just to score a lot of points or anything like that. He his whole knack was to find the best player and see how he could stop those guys. That's where his competitive drive had came. And it it's not just Dennis Rodman that actually feels this way. There's a lot of other NBA legends or Hall of Famers that feel the way that Dennis Rodman do feel. Uh, Charles Barkley, he's one of them. Shaquille O'Neal to a certain extent, he's one of them when you talk about big men. And you know how when he was talking about how like the big man is kind of not non-existent. They treat the big man as if he's a dinosaur, so to speak. And I mean, I agree with Dennis Rodman. You know, Now there are some players that try to keep today's NBA sort of in the realm of like it was back in the day. So like when you think of a guy like who they call two-way players, such as Kawhi Leonard, or when they think of defensive specialists such as a PJ Tucker, or when you think of you know defensive stoppers, like a Patrick Beverly, or guys that are just primarily just defense, and they play both ends of the floor, or even Paul George to a lesser degree, that play both ends of the floor. You know, when you think of those guys, they don't really look at those guys as being the most popular players. They call them two-way players. But when Dennis Rodman was playing, when a lot of those guys that were in the '80s were playing, that was kind of the norm. You had to play both ends of the floor, and even the great Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, Mamba mentality all day. He had even mentioned that today's game is rather soft. He said he was used to smash mouth basketball, and that's what a lot of the guys were used to. Now, I've had many arguments, many debates about this before, and there's been many people that have came out up with this silly statement that Dennis Rodman wouldn't be able to play in today's game. What you have to understand is that Dennis Rodman could actually play both ways if he really wanted to, because he was exceptionally quick, and he was fast, and he was really, really athletic. Uh, Shout out to Too Raw for TV. If you haven't subbed to his channel, definitely sub to his channel. Both of his channels, as a matter of fact. Too Raw had he did a piece on this, but he also did a piece on stating that Phil Jackson has stated that, or Dennis Rodman had told Dennis Rodman had stated that Phil Jackson had told him that he was the best player that he'd ever coached. And everybody thinks that Dennis Rodman is actually insane for saying that. But if you go back and you go look at an interview with Phil Jackson, he while everybody was always on the defense about a guy like Dennis Rodman because he was a character, no doubt he was he was kind of flamboyant and outrageous with the stuff that he did. But if you approach Phil Jackson and you really got what you know the what his thoughts of a player like Dennis Rodman was, he said he goes, he comes in, he works hard, he uh he does his job, he professional, and he goes home just like everybody else. He's blue collar. That's what he said about him, as opposed to what the media would say about him and how he drinks a lot, parties a lot, does this and that. He's outrageous and all this other stuff. Phil Jackson had a completely different perception of the Dennis Rodman. And then on top of that, what you had to understand, a lot of people don't understand is Dennis Rodman was very cerebral. He was extremely cerebral. He's as I mentioned before, when we talk about NBA offenses, particularly an offense like the triangle offense, that's a very difficult offense to pick up, as I stated before. Uh, I've mentioned before that Carmelo Anthony had trouble and he had to call Kobe Bryant in order to get pointers to figure out that offense. But see, a lot of people don't understand this. Dennis Rodman was one of the few players to pick that offense up immediately. Okay, so I know you're saying, well, what does this have to do with today's players in comparison to yesterday's players? It just shows you that the type of mentality that these players had back then. Dennis Rodman's competitive. He had a competitive rage to want to shut you down. He didn't want to go out there. He didn't want to be pretty. He wasn't trying to pull up from 30 or 40, or he wasn't trying to shoot everything. But see, players nowadays, the game has. I'm not going to say is gotten soft. Uh, I'm going to say that it's evolved. But do I like a whole lot of scoring and just 3-pointer here, 3-pointer there, 3-pointer here, 3-pointer there? Not to say that all games are like that, but the majority of them are what you see. They tend to be that way. Am I a fan of that? No. I like to mix it up. I like and I like defense too because to me, that's what one of the reasons why I watched a lot of college basketball because it's more of the hustle involved, more of the heart involved, more of the defense, and it's more of a challenge to really score and to get if you look at a lot of college games, I would say maybe a few years ago, you didn't really see a lot of easy buckets and stuff like that. Sometimes you rarely see a lot of easy buckets now in some games. And those are the type of games that I like. I like, all out, okay, defense 1-on-1. But everybody, they come with that question like, who plays defense anymore? And that's true. A lot of people really don't play. They don't take defense as serious uh, as they once did. And the game is speeding up. I really feel like if a lot of those guys were to play in today's NBA, they would have a field day with this um with this era we also have to understand that uh, it's still a pick and roll league, just as much as it was back then. Especially when you talk about the high pick and roll and the the low pick and roll. Uh, you know, either defending it or running it. You have to take that into consideration. And plus, it was a lot more half court being played too. Whereas Dennis Rodman, he used to love to run, so he would definitely thrive. And the fact that he didn't want to score, that makes it even better. When you have a player on there that really doesn't need the ball, all he wants to do is defend. That's a joy to have on your team. That's an absolute joy to have on your team because most likely you're gonna get the ball back. Right, but like defense isn't. I'm not gonna say defense isn't played. Salute to you, Don Lovato. We're talking about not the All Star game, man. We're talking about just in a regular NBA game. Not everybody on that floor is is as focused defensively or locked in as much defensively as they were, back then. You know, I know that the rule changes has a lot to do with that, and a lot of people get this assumption that just because there's no hand checking, there isn't no defense. Uh, well, Don Lovato, that wasn't his forte. He wasn't. You see, he wasn't focused on shooting. He wasn't focused on offense. He wasn't focused on going out there to score. Again, he was out there to see how efficiently he could stop the next guy. You know what I'm saying? If if Dennis Rodman, I'm quite sure that if Dennis Rodman would have focused on offense or came in like he was in college, scoring and everything like that, he. I'm not gonna say he would have been, the best or anything like that. He probably would have been somewhat successful, but and that's because of his athleticism. That's because of his athleticism. You know, a lot of people don't understand that when the Pistons were breaking up and they had to rely on Rodman, I think he had averaged like 11 points and insane 22 rebounds, uh, a couple of blocks and 3 assists. So he pretty much had an all around game, and they depended on him for some of the offense sometimes. Not, and I don't want people thinking that, but this was like towards his on his way out of Detroit. Uh, he's one of the most athletic players. But look, most teams don't put an emphasis on this. But I really see a player like Dennis Rodman or Tony Allen who don't need a ball and can efficiently play these days. Yeah, that's facts. Um, salute to you, Scrub Zero. If you got a guy like like a Dikembe Mutombo or something like somebody like that on your team, those guys are joys to have because they don't they're basically cleanup men, and all you need to do is send a player that way, and he'll do the rest for you. Or when they get the rebound, you're gonna get that ball back, or you're gonna receive an outlet pass to some degree. A lot of people don't understand either that how exceptional of a passer Dennis Rodman was. You know, and people wonder why. They think I'm insane for having Dennis Rodman as my starting power forward of all time. Think about it. With the exception of the Lakers and the exception of the San Antonio Spurs, every place that Dennis Rodman has won, he's been successful at, bar none, and has won multiple championships. He won multiple championships with Detroit, and he won multiple championships with the Bulls, and was a huge factor. People forget that. If you go look at the Last Dance, it puts it in perspective. I had already knew that. I'm glad that they talked about it too. Dennis Rodman and Michael Jordan pretty much sewed things up while Pippen was gone with this whole little contract situation. It was Dennis Rodman. It was Dennis Rodman that was the X factor when it came to the Seattle series. You know, so you're like, well, why don't you have Duncan up there, or why don't you have uh, uh, somebody like Charles Barkley up there or something? Yeah, yeah. I don't need my. I already have enough scoring on my team, and uh, this is another thing too. Yeah, you do need to score, but it still goes back to closing games and defense and rebounds, and that's what's going to win you championships. People get irate and get mad when I say I have Hakeem Olajuwon as my starting center. Well, why not Kareem? No, 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 no. It's not taking anything away from Kareem. I think he's a wonderful player. I think he's one of the greatest of all time. But I don't need my front court to do all that much scoring. I need rim protectors. I need somebody that's going to get the rebound and be able to hoist that motherfucker back up to a motherfucker like Michael Jordan, who's going to be in the outlet and be able to bam that bitch in. If I got Isaiah Thomas as my starting point guard, who was way more quicker, way more faster than Magic Johnson, and handled the ball way more better, not taking away from Magic Johnson, you do the math on that motherfucker, nigga. You know, uh, Hakeem Olajuwon. People don't realize Hakeem Olajuwon could handle the rock. Dennis Rodman could handle the rock to a degree, and he could run the floor, and he didn't make stupid plays. He wasn't the old catch. Let me just catch it in the post and all that. Dennis Rodman was all over the fucking floor, and he could guard 1 through 5. He could guard your point guard. He could guard your shooting guard. He could guard your small forward. He could guard your power forward. He could guard your center. He shut down Shaq, and Shaq was an animal. Yeah, he could play offense and both defense. All time leader in blocks. Now, some people argue that uh, you know maybe Bill Russell or Chamberlain probably would have changed that had they took stats like that um, earlier. But that remains to be seen. I mean that's up for debate too. Everybody understands that. Everybody knows that. No, and listen, if you did, hey, that's fine. There's man, I go at it with everybody. Man, there's a lot of people that think I'm absurd for having that. I have people that think that I'm crazy for having Michael Jordan in my starting lineup. You know, I know several people that don't have Michael Jordan in their starting five, and I can understand that. As much as I love Michael Jordan and everything, he wasn't the end all be all. But that's a whole nother story. Uh, you know, we're talking about in rep. Like Oscar Robertson, he's got Steph Curry amongst his starting five. But people wonder why. You understand what I'm saying? People ask me why do I have Russell Westbrook as my favorite player right now? I love Russell Westbrook tenacity. I love his energy. I love the way he pushed the ball. People underrate his intelligence. They think that he just has no IQ at all. It takes a lot of maybe his IQ ain't like a Chris Paul. Maybe his IQ ain't like a Rondo or whatever. Maybe he's not a true point guard, which he really isn't. But he does the things on the floor and could cover so much ground. He's a joy to have on your squad. Watching this guy, work as hard as he does. He just sometimes he gets a little, gets a little out of control, but he's still nevertheless when it's all said and done, he's gonna be to go down as a great player, and he has a chance to win a championship to put the icing on the cake. And see the fact that they have Rondo there, he's able to pick the brain of a champion, a guy who has been there, who's been in the trenches multiple times, and been successful at it as being the floor general. Oh yeah, you'd have MJ as your third string off the bench. Yeah, hey, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I don't even take offense to that. What's up with it, Jersey Deep TV? Um, I would have loved, and see, now that I have Jersey Deep TV in here, I would have loved to see Dennis Rodman play against LeBron. He would shut LeBron down. He would just by getting in his head. I mean, people don't understand how athletic Dennis Rodman was. Dennis Rodman was going to meet you at the rim. He was going to meet you at the cup, bar none. So all this, oh, I'm scared to go to the rack. Oh, no, nah, you couldn't do that back in the '80s. Nah, you were gonna meet that dude at the rim. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he might have been bigger. He 6'7", uh, 6'7", 6'8", maybe an inch, inch or two taller, and some weight. Exactly, exactly. Jersey Deep, and listen, Jersey Deep, he loved LeBron. I'm not hating on that. Would okay? Would he completely stop LeBron from getting uh his buckets all the way? No, but he would get in. He was a guy that could get in your head. But a lot of people don't understand this though, that you had to have a mental toughness that was beyond this world if you played in the '80s. I don't talk about the '90s. I talk about the '80s because I think the '80s were the tougher era. You know, Dennis Rodman could pick you up 94 feet. It, he wouldn't have to foul. See, a lot of people just look at the clips of him shoving uh, Scottie Pippen into the stands and all of that other stuff, and they think that's how he played every single possession. But that's not how he played. He actually just played defense and was a pest, and he was good at it. He actually played really good defense. He could play without his hands. That would be no problem because he had quick feet too. So him keeping up with a guy like Steph Curry, who's not that fast at all. The only thing that he would have him on his handles, and even that he wouldn't be, you wouldn't be able to shake a guy like Dennis Rodman out of his shoes if he's picking you up 94 feet. And with Klay Thompson moving right out the ball, he's going to move right along with you, and he's going to get through those screens. Yeah, everybody had problem. Everybody had a problem with him, but he, unfortunately, you know, uh, it took it took more than Dennis Rodman in terms of shutting Jordan down, and you weren't going to completely shut Jordan down. He probably had some really tough shooting nights, and with the volume shooting that he did, shooting a horrible percentage or whatever when he ran into the Pistons sometimes, but uh, yeah, it was a challenge nevertheless. It was a challenge. I don't take anything away from, because I love watching Damian Lillard. I like watching him, but I wish that he wasn't so much. See, the point guard position was played much differently than what it is today. You see very few people playing it the way that it's supposed to be played. If they look at you crazy if you think pass first, but if, let's say, me, Jersey Deep, Don Lovato, and Scrub Zero were all on the floor, okay, and my point guard was like Lonzo Ball. As much as everybody shits on Lonzo Ball, and as much as they get on him, he does actually what a point guard is supposed to do. He looks for you first. He's looking for the outlet. That's number one key. He's trying to push that motherfucker. And then on top of that, he plays really great defense. Something that you want your point guard to have your point guard be as great as a defender as everybody else is on the floor. That makes your job easier. Because if he gets to steal, and let's say a shooting guard is already uh, flying up the floor, running wide or whatever, he could either look for the, or 9 times out of 10 they're gonna look in this and nowadays they're gonna look for him spotting up, or if he's going straight to the right, you know what I'm saying, for an alley or whatever, he's gonna look for the pass to go ahead and put that bitch up and get it to the cup. And that's a joy to play with. That's an absolute that's an absolute joy to play with. A lot of people don't understand that, like, a pass first point guard, that's what people want to play with, because at least I know I'm gonna get the ball. But would you rather have a point guard that's just gonna sit there, dance with the rock all the time, dribble the clock out, and then next thing you know, they make uh silly turnovers. Nobody wants to play with that. But anyways, man, if nobody's gonna come in, uh like this video, share it, subscribe. Also hit the notifications too. Until then, it's Polo Sports Talking ENT. I'm going to holler at y'all.